There is something quietly heartbreaking about watching a man lose the strength he once took for granted. I remember one morning, sitting across from a retired train conductor named Walter. Big hands, deep voice, the kind of man who could once carry railroad ties like they were lumber. But now, he just looked tired. "I don't get it, Doc," he said. "I still eat right. I have my cereal, my glass of milk, same thing every day, but I feel like I'm fading." And I just nodded. Because I've heard this before. From welders, truckers, school teachers, men who lived steady lives, who took care of their families, who never expected their own bodies, would turn on them slowly, quietly, while they were just trying to stay the course. The truth is, sometimes it isn't age. Sometimes it's what's in your glass. I'm Dr. Thomas Leighton. I spent over 40 years listening to men like Walter, men who carried the weight of others, and now wonder why they feel so much lighter in the wrong places and heavier in the ones that ache. Today, I want to walk with you through one of the most overlooked culprits in a man's decline after 60. Not because it's hidden, but because it's so familiar. Because we trust it. Because it reminds us of a simpler time. Milk. If this message speaks to you, if you've ever poured yourself a glass and felt like you were doing the right thing, only to find yourself more tired, more bloated, or just off, then type 1. If not, type 0. Either way, thank you for being here. You're not alone. Now, I want to say this gently. There are some milks that may no longer be serving the man you are now. And there are others quieter, less flashy, that may support your energy, your sleep, even your erections, in ways you haven't felt in years. Let's start with a tough one, the old friend in your fridge. Whole milk. I grew up with it too. I remember my own father pouring it next to his morning toast like it was a ritual. Back then, we believed it made us strong, and in some ways, it did. We were younger. Our bodies could handle the extra weight of saturated fat, the sugar, the cholesterol. But here's what the science now shows, and it's backed by the Mayo Clinic, Harvard Health, and decades of cardiovascular research. After 60, our arteries begin to lose their flexibility. The heart has to work harder. And saturated fat, the kind found abundantly in whole milk, can quietly clog those narrowing vessels. One glass of whole milk has about 4.5 grams of saturated fat. It may not sound like much, but if you're having 2 or 3 glasses a day, those grams add up in your bloodstream, in your joints, and yes, in the very blood vessels that feed your sexual function. Blood flow, after all, is everything. Without it, your brain fogs, your legs cramp, your confidence dims in the bedroom. And it's not just the fat. Whole milk also brings a high calorie count, nearly 150 calories a glass. At an age when muscle naturally declines and metabolism slows, every excess calorie starts to matter more. You don't burn through them like you used to. Then there's the lactose. Roughly 65% of adults develop some degree of lactose intolerance. You might not have had issues at 30, but now, that bloated feeling, the gas, the heaviness after breakfast. It could be your body quietly rejecting what it once accepted without complaint. I had a man in his 70s, a former firefighter, look me straight in the eye and say, "Doc, I eat clean, no fast food, just cereal and milk every morning." I had to tell him gently, that habit may be part of what's stealing your energy. Because after 60, strength doesn't come from nostalgia. It comes from knowledge. If you've been feeling slower, foggier, more irritable, it may not be age. It may be your morning glass. Now, that one stings, I know. But the next one? It hides behind sweetness, condensed milk. You've probably seen it in desserts. Maybe a spoonful in your coffee. Or a drizzle on the holidays. It's thick. It's comforting. And it's loaded with sugar. 1 tablespoon, just one, can carry about 10 grams of added sugar, and almost no one stops at 1. Sugar, especially in concentrated forms like this, has been directly linked to a faster decline in memory. According to studies from the National Institutes of Health, high sugar intake is tied to increased risk of cognitive decline, even Alzheimer's. Some researchers now refer to it as type 3 diabetes. Think about that. The sugar you put in your body may be clouding your mind. If you've been forgetting names, losing your train of thought, or feeling like your brain just doesn't fire the way it used to, I invite you to look at what's on your plate and what's in your cup. And it doesn't stop at the brain. That same sugar drives inflammation, the invisible kind that affects your blood vessels, your hormones, even your ability to perform sexually. When inflammation rises, testosterone falls, and your blood vessels become stiffer, less able to carry oxygen and nutrients to the parts of your body that matter most. You may still feel desire, but your body doesn't answer as it used to. That gap between what you want and what you can do, that's where many men lose hope. But I want to remind you, this is not your fault. You weren't warned. You weren't taught to read past the label. You were told, milk is good, sugar is joy. And now you're being told, too much of that joy may be taking something from you slowly, quietly, without asking. If you're finding this helpful, or if something in you is starting to wonder about your own routine, consider subscribing. That way, you won't miss future messages meant just for men like you. Now, let's talk about a milk that wears a clean label, but hides a dirtier secret. Rice milk. Plant-based. Light. Seems like a smart choice, right? That's what I thought once too. Until I looked closer. Most rice milk is made from white rice and water. Almost no protein. Almost no healthy fats. And very little of what a man over 60 truly needs. But worse than that, rice pulls arsenic from the soil. It's a naturally absorbing grain. And while small amounts won't hurt most people, for men with declining kidney function or high blood pressure, which is most of us after 60, the buildup can be dangerous. Studies published in journals like Environmental Health Perspectives have confirmed long-term exposure to even low levels of inorganic arsenic, like those found in rice milk, can affect kidney health and increase cancer risk. If your blood pressure's been harder to manage, or if your labs have shown early signs of kidney stress, it might not be just salt or age. It could be in that healthy milk. Rice milk also has a very high glycemic index, meaning it spikes your blood sugar fast, like a soda would. For those managing prediabetes, which again includes more than half of men over 60, that sugar roller coaster leads to more cravings, more fatigue, and more confusion. And still, no protein to feed your muscles. No healthy fat to feed your hormones. Just a sweet, empty liquid dressed in a plant-based label. It's not your fault if you trusted it. But now that you know, you have a choice. There's one more kind I want to bring up today before we turn to the good news. The milk that wears a disguise. Flavored, plant-based milks. They sound healthy. They come in almond, soy, oat, even hazelnut. They say fortified and low fat. But they're often loaded with added sugar 10 to 15 grams per cup and thickeners like gums and emulsifiers that can irritate digestion and throw off hormone balance. One patient told me proudly, "Doc, I switched to vanilla almond milk. I looked at the label, the first 3 ingredients, water, cane sugar, and oil." He meant well. He truly wanted better. But the milk he chose was quietly spiking his blood sugar, burdening his gut, and worsening the very issues he was trying to solve. That's the trouble with our food system today. You try to do better and still get blindsided. But now that we've cleared the fog, I want to show you something better. Let me tell you about a man named Jim. Early 70s, retired high school teacher. He wasn't looking for a miracle, just a little steadiness. His knees ached, his thoughts drifted, and his sleep, well, it just wasn't what it used to be. His words were quiet, but they carried weight. He said, "I just want to feel like myself again." So, we looked at one small thing, his morning routine. The milk he used in his coffee, poured into his cereal, or sipped in the evening to wind down. We made a switch. He traded in the processed, sugar-laced almond milk for something that didn't make promises on the front of the carton, but delivered real strength behind the scenes. Fermented soy milk. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Soy? Isn't that a woman's food? Isn't it bad for testosterone? That myth has been floating around for years, but it's just that, a myth. In fact, the opposite is true when it comes to fermented soy. When soy is fermented, think of it like turning cabbage into sauerkraut or milk into yogurt. The nutrients become more absorbable. easier on the gut, packed with beneficial probiotics. Fermented soy milk is rich in complete protein. That means it gives you all 9 essential amino acids, the kind your muscles need not just to grow, but to stay. After 60, muscle loss isn't just a cosmetic issue. It affects balance, stability, how quickly you can get up from a chair or catch yourself if you stumble. That's the difference between independence and needing help. Jim started having 1 cup a day, just 1. Within weeks, he said he felt more solid on his feet, less sore in the mornings, and, surprisingly, his mind felt clearer too. There's a reason for that. Fermented soy is rich in isoflavones, natural plant compounds that support hormonal balance and brain function. According to research from Harvard and published in the Journal of Nutrition, isoflavones may help reduce the risk of cognitive decline and even slow the progression of early memory loss. That's not hype. That's science, the kind that's quietly improving the lives of men who thought decline was inevitable. And let's not forget digestion. With age, our gut becomes more sensitive. Fermentation naturally introduces probiotics, the good bacteria that help regulate bowel movements, ease bloating, and support nutrient absorption. Jim told me, "I used to feel like my stomach ran the show. Now I feel like I'm back in charge." That's what the right milk can do. But maybe soy isn't for you. Maybe you're looking for something even gentler, something simple, unassuming, but deeply nourishing. That's where unsweetened almond milk comes in. Now, not the vanilla-flavored kind with 10 different ingredients. I'm talking about the plain, no-sugar-added version. Just almonds, water, and a few essential vitamins. It's low in calories, gentle on the gut, and rich in one of the most powerful nutrients most men overlook, vitamin E. Vitamin E is an antioxidant. It helps protect your brain from oxidative stress. That means sharper memory, clearer thoughts, and, according to the National Institutes of Health, a reduced risk of Alzheimer's prior to. I had a patient, Joe, a retired mechanic, tough as nails, said to me, "Doc, I don't need fancy. I just want something that works." He'd been drinking flavored oat milk full of sugar and wondered why he kept crashing mid-morning. We switched him to unsweetened almond milk. Within weeks, his energy leveled out. His blood pressure stabilized. And most importantly, he felt mentally lighter. Because that's the part most people don't talk about. The mind fog, the irritability, the subtle frustration that builds when you don't feel quite like yourself. Joe said, "I didn't even realize how heavy I'd been feeling until I finally felt light again." That's not just milk. That's healing. Now let's talk about comfort, not the kind that numbs, but the kind that supports you when you need it most. Calcium-fortified oat milk. Warm it up in the evening. Sip it slowly. It doesn't just soothe the senses, it delivers 2 of the most vital nutrients for men after 60, calcium and vitamin D. After 60, your bones begin to thin. Your spine, your hips, your ribs, they all become more fragile. And here's the hard truth, a single fall can change the rest of your life. But studies show that consistent intake of calcium and vitamin D helps reduce the risk of fractures and maintain bone density. The National Osteoporosis Foundation recommends it. So does the Mayo Clinic. And in my own practice, I've seen it work. One patient, Robert, told me, "Doc, I don't want to end up in a nursing home because I tripped over a rug." We added a nightly cup of oat milk to his routine, fortified with 350 milligrams of calcium and 100 IU of vitamin D. That's not a cure, but it's a step. And with time, those steps add up. Oat milk also contains beta-glucan, a fiber that binds to cholesterol and helps remove it from the body. That supports heart health gently. And maybe most surprising of all, it helps with sleep. There's something in that warm, smooth texture that tells the nervous system, you're safe now. You can rest. Robert started sleeping through the night. Woke up feeling less stiff, less anxious, just more himself. That's what happens when you give your body what it's missing. Now, there's one more milk I want to tell you about. One most men have never heard of. Flax milk. It doesn't come in flashy packaging. But inside, there's a quiet power. A gift, really. For your heart, your brain, your joints, and your manhood. Flax milk is rich in ALA omega-3s, a plant-based form of fatty acid that reduces inflammation throughout the body. Chronic inflammation is the hidden enemy of aging men. It erodes your joints. It stiffens your blood vessels. It clouds your mind. And yes, it saps your sexual vitality. Flax helps fight back. I had a patient, Jim, different from the first, who said, "Doc, I just feel old. Not tired old." We started small. 1 cup of flax milk a day, stirred into oatmeal, blended into a smoothie. Nothing dramatic. 3 weeks later, he came in and said, "My knees aren't barking at me. I feel clearer up here." And then he asked, almost embarrassed, "Could this help, down there?" I just smiled and said, "Yes, it can." Because better circulation means better function. Not just in the brain or heart, but where confidence lives, too. Flax milk is also fortified with calcium, B12, and vitamin D, essential for mood, nerve function, and bone health. It's cholesterol-free, lactose-free, and gentle enough for even the most sensitive stomachs. If you've been looking for something that works with your body, not against it, this is a place to start. Now, I know this has been a lot, and I'm not asking you to change everything at once. Just take a look at what's in your fridge. Ask yourself, gently, is this milk helping me live better? Or is it just a habit I haven't questioned? And if you're willing, try swapping 1 glass. Replace something that no longer serves you with something that just might surprise you. Not with fear, not with shame, but with quiet intention. Sometimes, the smallest change can carry the deepest meaning. I remember one man, a Navy veteran named Charles, quiet type, polished boots. Came in mostly for routine checkups, but one day, after we talked about his blood pressure, he paused and said, "Doc, I miss feeling like me." He wasn't talking about hair loss or weight gain. He meant the spark, the sense of command, of control over his body, his thoughts, his energy. And I understood, because that's something no medication bottle can promise. We didn't overhaul his diet. We didn't put him on supplements or trackers or fads. We just made a simple change. We swapped out the whole milk he'd been drinking every morning for decades with a cup of flax milk stirred into his coffee. A month later, he came back. He looked the same, but something was different. A light behind the eyes, a steadiness in how he carried himself. "I don't know if it's the milk or what," he said, "but I'm sleeping better. I'm thinking clearer. My knees even feel quieter." Then he looked down, hesitated, and added, "And my wife noticed something too." He didn't need to say more. I just smiled and nodded. Because I've seen it again and again, men starting to feel like themselves again, not because they added a dozen new routines, but because they finally removed what was quietly hurting them and gave their body a better chance to heal. That's the heart of this message. Not fear, not shame. Just a gentle reminder that even at this age, especially at this age, you can still shift your story. And the milk you choose is a fine place to start. So let's bring it together now. Quietly, clearly. There are 4 milks you may want to step away from. Whole milk, rich in nostalgia, but also in saturated fat, sugar, and cholesterol that can damage circulation and increase risk for heart disease. Sweetened condensed milk, a sugar-laden comfort that spikes blood sugar, clouds memory, and drives inflammation in every part of the body. Rice milk light in nutrients, heavy in arsenic and glycemic spikes, offering little to your muscles and too much to your blood sugar. Flavored plant-based milks disguised in healthy branding, but often filled with hidden sugars, gums, and synthetic additives that hurt your hormones, your gut, and your performance. Each of these might seem harmless, even familiar, but that's what makes them dangerous. They don't shout, they whisper. They chip away at you without warning, until you find yourself wondering what happened to the man you used to be. But now you know better. And here's the good news. There are 4 milks that may not just nourish you, they may restore you. Fermented soy milk, rich in complete protein and brain-supportive isoflavones. It helps with muscle retention, mental clarity, and smooth digestion. Unsweetened almond milk, heart-friendly, brain-sharpening, and light enough to give your gut a break. It's not flashy, but it works. Calcium-fortified oat milk, a sleep-friendly, bone-strengthening ally. Warm it up at night and let it remind you of what comfort should feel like. Flax milk, the omega-3 powerhouse that fights inflammation, supports blood flow, and brings real nourishment to your joints, brain, and manhood. Each of these options does something that the others don't. And no, you don't have to change everything at once. In fact, I'd suggest the opposite. Just pick one. Try it for a week. Notice how your digestion feels, your clarity, your mood, your sleep, your blood pressure even. And if you feel something shift, something small but real, you'll know. Then you can decide, do I keep going? That's how lasting change begins. With awareness, with patience, with a quiet decision to treat your body with the care it's long deserved. I've been in this field for decades now, walked alongside men through retirement, through illness, through grief, through renewal. And I can tell you the strongest among them weren't always the ones who lifted the most or ran the farthest. They were the ones who listened, who noticed, who stayed curious, who didn't confuse routine with wisdom. So if something in this message has stirred something in you, I hope you'll let it stay with you. Maybe you share it with a friend, not in a loud way, not with judgment, just over coffee or during a walk, the way men do, the way trust is built, quietly. And if you're ready to take that first small step that's swap in your glass, then I'll say this. You're not too old to change. You're just old enough to understand what matters. Because growing older doesn't mean growing weaker. It means growing smarter. Every sip you take, every choice you make adds up. And over time, those quiet choices become your strength, your clarity, your peace. So, what will you pour into your glass tomorrow morning? If this message spoke to you even just a little, feel free to share it with someone you trust. And if you're ready to try something new, to start feeling like you again, just type, I'm making the switch. Not for me, for you. Because sometimes, change doesn't start with a decision. It starts with a question. And I'm glad you asked it today.